The Audio-Technica ATH-M50x are maybe one of the most recommended studio headphones on the planet. And I've had at least one or two pairs of these over the past 15 to 20 years. They've landed in a number of my best of headphone videos for closed-back headphones. I enjoy tracking and producing on these because it's very exciting to listen to music through them. They're a nice headphone. But I gotta be honest with you, the M50x have never been my favorite choice for mixing and mastering. This is the new ATH-R50x open back headphone. Coming in at under $200 US. I was curious if they could provide the accuracy, the clarity, the space that could rival a lot of the open back headphones I trust. Are these the pair you've been waiting for? Let's break it all down. Now, full disclosure, this is sponsored by Audio-Technica. However, these are my honest opinions and experiences using these headphones exclusively in my studio over the past month for mixing, mastering, production, general listening, everything in between. I've really put them through their paces. So let's dive in. My first impressions with the R50x is I couldn't really believe how lightweight they are. They're just a lot less clunky design when compared to a lot of closed-back headphones. These come in at right around 7 ounces, which is extremely light. And when I put them on my head, it's almost like I could barely tell they're there. And then with that open grill, you can see the 45mm driver in there, but just having that open air kind of feel makes them extremely comfortable for long, extended use in the studio or just sitting at your desk. Overall build quality is very impressive in this price range. I would describe them as more functional and minimal rather than kind of bulky, heavy, luxurious feeling, if you will, although they do have these nice soft velour ear pads. But the thing that's great about these is they're highly breathable. So you've got the velour, but I didn't think they were too hot because you can actually see through this side of the ear cup with that open back design. Kind of gives you the best of both worlds. You get the soft comfort, but not the heat that you would get from some other headphones, especially a closed back headphone with the velour pads. Another thing I noticed immediately is that the top of the headband is perforated. I know another concern for many of you is how much pressure you're getting when they're on your head. And so that perforation just provides a lot of flexibility there where you're not going to feel a lot of pressure on your head. These stretch with very little resistance. So when you put them on your head, I'm not feeling any kind of pinching or clenching, which some other headphones can feel tighter. You have 2 minimal pads up top. I'm glad they went with this option just because of the lightweight design. You don't need anything excessive, and it would just add to the bulk and the weight of the headphone. They do the job well. Now we do have a detachable cable, and you'll see that we can just twist it counterclockwise, pulls it out, push it in, and then turn it clockwise to lock that in place, and then it's not going to be able to pull out easily. It's nice. It's on the left ear cup, and it comes with 2 cables. So you have one longer cable that has your 1/4 inch adapter, and then it has a shorter cable that does not have a 1/4 inch. It's just an 1/8 inch to go into your phone, your tablet, your laptop, and so on. Now, the one criticism that I have on the build is the adjustable ear pads and the way that these kind of click up and down. They're a little bit finicky when you first start adjusting them. It's not the easiest thing to make both of these at the same setting. Like there's no indentations on the ear cup bracket. So getting those to match is a little tricky. The good news is they don't wiggle or they don't shift very easily once you have them adjusted and they're on your head. So it's not like you're going to lose that position very easily. You just need to do a little bit more work to adjust them and get them into place. All right, so we've got to talk sound. And first of all, you're going to notice when you put these on your head versus a closed back, it just feels more natural. It's almost like sitting and listening to a pair of speakers. You feel like you are still in the room and you're not kind of separated in that way, which is a nice sensation. Now, as far as the actual sound in the headphones, I would say the biggest jump from a closed back to an open back, generally speaking, and especially with the R50 coming from an M50, is going to be the stereo imaging and the stereo separation. There's just a much more natural, wide sound stage that feels, again, more like monitors or speakers, which I think a lot of you are going to really appreciate coming from a closed back experience. Secondly, the difference in the low end from something like the M50 is pretty substantial. The R50 are not as overbearing. I think the M50 have a really exciting low end. The R50X is not going to give you that forced sub-bass kind of punch that you would get with a closed back or a closed cup headphone. But your low end is just going to translate much cleaner and much more accurately outside of the studio. And so that's been one of the biggest differences that I've experienced between going from the M50X to the R50X, is just that translation of the low end. It's just so much easier to judge. If you're looking for an accurate low end, something that you can hear all the way down to 30 Hertz and that's going to translate better outside of the studio or your desk, these are going to be a much better choice than a closed back headphone in the low end department. The high end detail is smoother. I would say it's not quite as treble heavy as the M50, but I found it to be much less fatiguing over time. I think a lot of people tend to focus on just the bass and the treble, especially in headphones. But once we get into the open back headphone territory and we're doing mixing and mastering, the mid-range is a lot more important. And great news with the R50X compared to the M50X is the mid-range is much more nuanced. Instruments and vocals sound really lifelike, and they're easy to pick out different details that I need to tweak in terms of EQ and compression. Now, I'm not going to get too much into ohms and impedance and all that because I don't think it's as much of an important thing these days with the interfaces that we have. If you have a decent interface, these are 50 ohm. They will hook up to your laptop or consumer devices as well as your high-end interfaces. I did notice that I need to push my interface just a little bit more to get these to a level that I'm comfortable with, but that's going to vary. And same thing goes for your consumer device. You may just need to give it a little bit more juice than you normally would for some other headphones. If you have a closed back like the M50, those are going to be your best choice for tracking and recording, production. These are open backs, so they're not isolating. Hopefully most of you know that by now, but you can hear these playing out this side of the headphone when I'm just sitting at the desk. So if you need privacy or you're recording next to a microphone, these are not going to be the choice for you. So if you're currently using the ATH M50X or another closed back headphone, I'm curious if you're tempted to add the R50X to your headphone lineup. Why or why not? Is an open back headphone something that's valuable to you? Have you experienced them yet? What do you feel is your preference there? Also, I'm going to keep you all posted on the long-term durability of the R50X and just how they perform in the day-to-day over time, as I do with all the headphones that I have shared on this channel. And if you have any questions about how the R50X compares to any of the other models that I've covered, feel free to leave that below. I'm happy to share some feedback. If you found the review helpful, please like, subscribe, and consider sharing with a friend. Thanks so much for having me a part of your headphone journey. Much love. Stay blessed. We'll talk to you soon.